Hello and welcome back to the MMA Bar. Today we're going to discuss the legendary life of Tim Kennedy, his achievements in the cage and outside of it, and what makes him so special that even several years after his retirement, everyone's still talking about him. Well, who is Tim Kennedy? Tim Fred Kennedy is a former professional mixed martial arts fighter and two-time title challenger. Having fought for the largest organizations in the world, including the UFC Strikeforce and the WEC, Kennedy has faced the best of the best. Tim Kennedy is now 42 years old, is an active Special Forces Master Sergeant and sniper with combat deployments throughout the Middle East, and is part of the most elite counterterrorism and hostage rescue unit within the U.S. Army Green Beret. Having competed in MMA for 15 years, Kennedy is one of the few fighters to simultaneously serve in the United States Army while also fighting professionally. But before we get into his illustrious MMA career and his long list of accomplishments as a soldier, let's discuss his beginnings. Kennedy grew up the second son of 3 children in a Christian family in Atascadero, California. As a youth, Kennedy's mother put him in cooking and piano lessons. To offset her influence on him, Kennedy's father enrolled Tim and his brother in shooting schools, boxing lessons, wrestling teams, and Japanese jiu-jitsu classes. Kennedy attended Eagle Academy Private High School, graduating in 1998. He then attended Columbia College of Missouri, earning a BA in criminal justice in 2002. To start his MMA career, Kennedy began training at Dokken School of Martial Arts in California under Terry Kelly and Barry Smith. He began his MMA training in 1999, training with Chuck Liddell, Jake Shields, Gan McGee, and John Hackelman at the Pit in San Luis Obispo. Kennedy first started fighting in 1996 and had 31 amateur fights, amassing a record of 30-1. In 2003, he competed and won a one-night tournament at Extreme Challenge 50, emerging victorious in all 3 of his fights. He began his MMA training in 1999, going on to enlist in the Special Forces in 2004. Kennedy took a break from his professional mixed martial arts career to join the United States Army. He returned to pro MMA in 2006 and fought for the now-defunct International Fight League. In 2008 again, Kennedy did not compete in MMA due to Army deployments overseas. During this time, he wrote a 3-part series of letters from a foreign land that chronicled his time in combat. Kennedy returned to mixed martial arts in 2009 with a win over Nick Thompson at Strikeforce Challengers. He followed up with an impressive win over Zach Cummings in the main event of SHO MMA 3. In his next fight, Kennedy fought Trevor Prangley in 2010. Kennedy won the fight via rear naked choke submission in the first round. His next fight was a title shot against Jakar Souza in the vacant Strikeforce middleweight championship. Kennedy lost the fight by decision. He had 4 more fights in Strikeforce before he made the move to UFC. In January 2013, the Strikeforce organization was closed by its parent company Zuffa. A lot of fighters scheduled to be brought over to the Ultimate Fighter Championship were released in mid-January, and Kennedy was one of the fighters listed. Kennedy made his UFC debut against Roger Gracie at UFC 162. He defeated Gracie via unanimous decision after defending Gracie's submission attempts and standing up with Gracie, outstriking him. Kennedy next faced Rafael Natal in the event headliner of the UFC Fight for the Troops 3. He won the fight via knockout in the first round. The win also earned him first knockout of the night bonus award. This fight, according to Kennedy, would be the most important of his career. For his 3rd fight from the promotion, Kennedy faced Michael Bisping. He beat the then future champion via unanimous decision. Kennedy next faced Yoel Romero at UFC 178. He lost the fight via TKO in the 3rd round. Kennedy nearly finished Romero in the final seconds of the 2nd round, but Romero was saved by the bell. Yoel Romero, his cornerman, the referee, and the UFC cutman have all been criticized for their actions, resulting in a 28-second delay after the scheduled start of the 3rd round. Romero later responded to the controversy, stating that Tim Kennedy illegally held his glove during the attack, which prevented Romero from being able to block the punches that rocked him. Despite the loss, Kennedy earned a Fight of the Night bonus award. After 2 years away from the sport, Kennedy announced his return in what would be his last MMA fight. He fought Kevin Gastelum at UFC 206 and lost by TKO in the 3rd round. On January 17, 2017, Kennedy released a social media statement announcing his retirement from the MMA. In the post, he admitted that he no longer desired to fight professionally and thanked those closest to him for their support. He also thanked the US Army, claiming that there was no greater moment than his victory in the main event of the UFC Fight for the Troops 3. Tim Kennedy has a UFC record of 3 wins and 2 losses after 3 years in the organization. Kennedy fought some big names during his short career in the UFC, sharing the octagon with Kevin Gastelum and Yoel Romero in his last 2 outings. Among Kennedy's multiple military citations, he was awarded the Army Bronze Star for his service in combat sports. During his period in the Army, he completed numerous combat training courses. In 2007, he completed Ranger School and was assigned to the 7th Special Forces Group. Kennedy has been involved in various high-profile missions during his time in the Special Forces, which also includes being a sniper instructor. The former UFC fighter was involved in the Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in the Middle East. In 2009, Kennedy served as Special Forces Weapons Sergeant in the Texas Army National Guard's 19th Special Forces Group. The Texas National Guard usually aids disaster relief, emergency preparedness, border security, and also security assistance to the law enforcement of the state of Texas. After he retired from the MMA, the 42-year-old re-enlisted for service in the U.S. Army Special Forces in 2017. The unlikely move was said to be due to the leadership of Secretary of Defense James N. Mattis and National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. The Special Forces soldier lost these bouts but managed to beat former UFC champion Michael Bisping in 2014. This was his biggest win in the organization, with his other victories coming against Rafael Natal and Roger Gracie. Tim Kennedy has an overall professional MMA record of 18-6 and spent many years competing in Strikeforce. During this time in the organization, Kennedy faced MMA superstars such as Robbie Lawler and Luke Rockhold. Despite being retired for 5 years now, Tim Kennedy still fancies his chance in the octagon against current UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya. He is certain it would be a great matchup for the current champion. He may be retired from the mat, but viewing Adesanya fight makes him think of being in the octagon. He stated that he wonders ways he could surely get the upper hand in a fight against him. Kennedy recently had an interview with Brendan Schaub on his podcast. In it, he explained how stylistically he can infiltrate Adesanya's defense and accomplish what other fighters have struggled with. Kennedy told Schaub, "I watched him fight and be like, oh, I could hit him right now. I could get inside like stylistically. He doesn't like to be in deep water. He likes to set pace. He likes to control range." The former UFC fighter's excellent cardio and grappling skills could prove to be a challenge for Adesanya. Unlike his other opponents, Kennedy believes that in his prime, he could have put some real pressure on the stylebender with his grappling skill. For now, the veteran is into film and television. Kennedy's first major host role was part of the History Channel television series Hunting Hitler, which explores alternative theories about Adolf Hitler's death. He most recently hosted the show on Discovery Channel Hard to Kill, in which he attempted to explore a day in the life of the world's most dangerous occupations. He produced the TV documentary Not a War Story in 2017 and helped co-produce Warriors in 2014. Also produced and hosted Iron Dragon TV. He's made appearances on Deadliest Warrior and the Ultimate Soldier Challenge. When discussing some of the greatest personalities to compete in the octagon, no doubt Tim Kennedy's name has got to be mentioned. He lived a full and richly rewarding life, and he was a soldier made for war, but forced to live in peace. Thank you for watching this video. That's all for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell, and we will see you in the next video.